It's Michael K. Media here with Springfield History Museum Illumination Project. Right now I'm talking with Jonathan Hayes. Jonathan, how you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
All right, good to have you. So my first question would be, just what is your personal or your family origin story for Springfield?
Actually, my origin story for Springfield, as far as my family, is just me coming out. I've been in this area for about 7 years. I came here from Savannah, Georgia, originally from Greensboro, North Carolina. But I wanted to come to the West Coast for better professional opportunities and training and safety in my profession, which is firefighter, paramedic. And so I'm the first one. I didn't know anybody before I came here. So I'm kind of, blazing the Oregon Trail. That's how I kind of joked about it with my friends and family when I was coming out here. So I'm going to be the first one here, and I'm trying to get my family to kind of come out here and kind of experience the Pacific Northwest too.
Have you been able to connect with good people since you've been out here?
Well, interestingly, I met a young lady when I came here. Understand, when I came here, I was coming to work, I was going to travel, do a lot of these things that I had on my list, but I ended up meeting a young lady that's in a similar profession. She's a nurse, and I ended up getting married in 2018, which I did not plan on doing that. But I think, I thought I was coming here for my career, but I think the reason I came here was to meet her because she kind of changed everything. And so establishing a relationship with her and professional relationships has really been my focus up to this point. So I joined some committees and things at work and within the cities to try to meet some different people in the community. So this is one of the first things that I've done, to try to reach out to meet some different people in our community. So,
having that perspective of coming from Georgia, what are some of the main differences of being in Springfield that you notice from where you're from?
I'll say one of the main differences is a difference in the color palette. If you think about artwork, it's a lot of one color out here, which, one or having a singular resource usually makes things kind of bland. So coming from the South and the East Coast, it was a completely different demographic as far as cultures and people are concerned. And so coming here, it is primarily one race here. I see some pockets of different races, but in my career field, it is largely like that. It is largely Caucasian males that are in the fire service. And so I kind of had some preparation for it. I didn't realize it at the time, but it kind of prepared me for the community here. Not in a negative way. I have long understood that we have a lot of strength in diversity. There's a lot of people with different ideas and experiences that can enhance my own, and my experiences can enhance the lives and experiences of other people. And so coming here and just being not only surrounded by that singular races at work, but having it in the community, that was a little bit different. But what I have realized is that people here are not raised, people that are not African American or people of color, they are not raised with an idea of hate or racism as they are in different parts of the country. And so when they're dealing with me, it's kind of, they don't really know what to do. They're not really sure how to act. And so their behavior is based on just the not knowing versus these ideas that have been passed on through their family, their generations, and the norms there of, well, we just don't like this group or that group because of how they look. And so here it's just been interesting trying to initiate conversations and broach that gap and just, kind of talk to people so they kind of know what to do, which is just treat me like a human. That's all we ever really need. Just treat me as though I'm somebody that you care about and everything will be fine. It's also interesting going into going into some homes, here during emergencies, that it's the first time a person of color have ever been in these folks' home before. That's not really something they're thinking about at the time, but, I usually go in, I try to be professional and courteous and, leave a good impression, because I feel like, I am representative of my entire race, because this is the first personal interaction folks have had. And so I've used that to really try to, again, broach those gaps and let folks know I'm just a person too, and I have things to offer just like you do. So.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I never thought about that in public service. That a lot of times people in the community don't really have to interface with people of color,
Right.
but in your situation, like you said, a lot of people are encountering African American in their own home a lot of times for the first time.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of just makes it a level playing field, you know. So in that case, I think that is probably the purest moment of, you know, I don't care what you look like, I just need help, you know. And that's, I mean, there's no better place. Nobody's going to be like, oh well, we need help, but you know, not your help. So I've never experienced that. And I doubt that I would. And so I think that gives people an opportunity for some self-reflection later, you know, after their emergency is over, after we've done whatever care we've done, you know, after their family member has recovered and they're back home, to kind of think about that. Wow. You know, every time, you know, we think about that situation, we think about this individual that was here. And I want to know more about him or more about his race or his people, you know. So I think that it's a great way to kind of introduce that thought process to people.
So you mentioned that you were prepared for being here by the fact that in your profession, it's not typical to have black folks in that profession in general, right?
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's not more black folks within that profession?
I think that it's not a profession that is really advertised to minorities or people of color. It's not, when you think about the jobs that people tell you that you should get as a youth, it's like, oh, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer or this. A lot of times people won't say a firefighter or a paramedic unless they have had experience with, like, someone came to their home and saved their father, and that made them want to be, you know, follow this line. Or, especially on the East Coast, it's like a family tradition. It's like if grandpa was a firefighter, then their son's going to be a firefighter, then their son. So it's kind of familial. In fact, it's very difficult to get into some of those departments if you don't have like that family connection somewhere along the line. And so it was not. I know that for me, even in North Carolina, it was not a profession. I didn't have any idea. I even thought about it. I had no. It was just like it didn't even seem real. Like, I would see firefighters on TV, but it's not something that my guidance counselor ever talked about. Nobody in my family has ever been in public service. Nobody that I knew had ever been in public service. So as with many things, we had that separation where we didn't know what we didn't know, you know. And so, because I think it's a fantastic career for anybody that wants to come in and help people and provide for their family. And so I just think that it not being as in the community, because in our neighborhood we didn't have as many fire stations, just like with the schools and tax, you know, it's just the same thing. You know, you're going to have the better schools and some of the better stations in the nicer neighborhoods where I did not live. And so I can't even think of where the closest fire station was when I was growing up. And so here we see fire engines all over the place, not only because we have a lot of stations, but because we respond to emergency medical calls as well. So that might be something else that has led to that, because back when I was growing up, firefighters only responded to fires. But as the needs of the community grew and budgetary restraints happened, we need to kind of make firefighters more able to handle different types of emergencies versus just very niche, oh, we can put out a fire if it's going on. And so it's good for the community that we made that, but that wasn't around when I was a youth. So I think that just getting the information out, letting people know the opportunities that are available. It's not just about running into burning buildings. In fact, we run far more medical calls than we do fire calls. I mean, hands down, I'm talking probably 95% of our calls are EMS calls. And the fire calls that we do get, not all of those are actual fires. And so if you look at the percentage, it's a relatively safe profession, you know, if you do the training and take care of your equipment, so on and so forth. And it allows you to really do anything else that you want to do. So I just think just the lack of getting that information out to young folks, them not having that family connection, departments not reaching out to those lower income neighborhoods or underserved communities to let them know about the opportunities. I think those things have all contributed to that. Interestingly though, we had the opportunity to recently visit Alabama, and like all the stations we drove by, it was the reverse. It was a lot of African American people there, and that was just because that's the community that they lived in. So that was like their pool is larger, obviously, because there's more African Americans to choose from that apply for that position. So the demographics of the community also lead to that.
Sounds like, us in the education system could maybe do a better job interfacing and getting that information to young people and letting them know, like, this is something that, especially for like the young Black folks and like the students in BSU and stuff like that, like, this is an option. This is something else that you could look into doing and becoming, right?
Right.
Let's go ahead and if you could talk to me about what some of your most impactful memories are in Springfield, like since you've been here, some of the most impactful experiences that you've had.
I would say the most impactful experiences, I keep talking about my job because we're so involved in the community in so many different things. Again, it's just being looked at as someone that can help. So just going out and actually helping people in a way that's fulfilling for me. It's not like somebody borrows $50 and I'm never going to get back, or I help them move a sofa. That helps them, and I don't mind helping them, but in the long run, that's not as fulfilling. And so being in public service, it allows me to fulfill that need to be needed without getting taken advantage of. It's kind of how I look at it. So when I go in, when I'm at work, that's usually when I have my most impactful moments, because I know that I'm actually eliciting a change. I mean, there are people that are alive because of my crew's actions. Other than that, I would say just being out and about. I have not had any issues in the city as far as like not being welcomed. Like I'm not treated a different way because of how I look or for any reason that I can really tell, and that's good. Additionally, the city itself, both the cities, Eugene and Springfield, and I only mention Eugene because since the fire department merged, I'm technically a City of Springfield employee, but I can be a part of community efforts and committee efforts for both cities. So that's kind of a unique, I'm about, bridging those gaps. It's another opportunity to do both. And the leadership of both cities, the way that they acknowledge we have this issue with diversity and we need to do something about it, it's been very impactful to me how the upper leadership, the executive leadership are all in. I'm on the committee with Mindy in the city of Springfield for diversity, and like Nancy Newton was at almost all the meetings that I was at. When we're a part of equity board meetings with the city of Eugene, like the city manager and the assistant city manager and attorneys, all the executive leadership are there. Which, if you dealt with committees long enough, you realize that one of the biggest downfalls of committees is that you form the committee, you have these ideas, and then they eventually kind of just dwindle down, and people get discouraged because of all that work they put into it, and nothing came to fruition. But the problems and issues are still there. So it's been impactful to me that the leadership here has embraced identified and embraced solutions to resolve these issues, especially the ones around diversity.
So then, do you have a sense that there's, from your perspective, a continuity between Eugene and Springfield, or do you notice any significant differences between Eugene and Springfield?
Eugene is a little further ahead just because they have more resources and they have committees and departments that are dedicated to these things, whereas the city of Springfield is like committees that people volunteer to help with. I can't remember the name of the office in Eugene. It's like the office of, it's like community involvement or something like that. And it's just like, that is what their job is, to be out in the community, identify these issues. And Springfield doesn't have quite as large a group of people that are being paid to do it. And so again, with committee work, it's just all about how can we find the time, how much personal time we're going to ask people to put into this. But again, having people that work that can interact with both cities kind of helps that. So I can take ideas from Eugene and bring that to Springfield. It's no use in doing that work twice. And so I know Mia, she just went, Carino, she just went to the city of Eugene. And so she was at Springfield, so she kind of knows where we were at here and what we're trying to do with diversity. And now she's involved in that Office of Community Involvement there. And so that's going to be another resource that we can use to kind of keep the information flowing and make it a circle versus, just Eugene or Springfield having their own ideas and keeping it apart.
So I think that's a good segue for my next question, which is, what do you see the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges are being in Springfield, Oregon?
I think the biggest opportunity and challenge is just getting information out. A lot of people, again, being here, a lot of people just a lot of people here haven't lived anywhere else. I mean, there are folks that I work with that have never lived anywhere else. They've only briefly visited other places. And so they have no idea what it really is to deal with folks that are in underserved community or what they can do about it. It seems like when you bring up diversity, people instantly are like, I'm not racist, it's not me, not my problem, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Well, it's like, well, you're kind of part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And so you may not have done this or known about it, but these are the impacts of these things throughout history. And these are the things that you can do to try to help change that. So shifting that, taking away, making people feel guilty, like I didn't own any slaves, what are you talking about? I've had people say that to me. It's like, well, no, you didn't, but slavery did happen. These other things did happen with these different cultures, which has brought us to this point. This is how we can go forward from that. So just letting people know, there's no blame, you're not responsible for that, but there's something you can do to make it better. And trying to approach it like, do you want to make things better for everybody? Because if you do, you're going to ultimately make it better for yourself as well. And so just giving people the information and finding a way to reach different people who have a narrower mindset when it comes to diversity and racism and growth and things like that. I think that's the biggest challenge, but it's going to be the biggest opportunity as well, because once you are able to reach those minds, I saw The Matrix recently, so once you free those minds, then they may be able to reach people that I can't, because no matter what I'm saying, they still may have a difficult time listening to me for whatever reason, because they don't know me that well, because my hair looks great and they're jealous or whatever that may be. But if they're talking to someone that they trust, they're more likely to receive that message. And so, making those conversations and bringing the messages out to as many people as we can will allow us to kind of overcome that.
What about, what would you like to see happen as far as developing the Black community in Springfield? And I guess before answering that question, do you, living in Springfield, have a sense that there is much of a Black community?
I don't, when we started this ILLUMINATION project, I learned about some of the Black business owners here, and it was like, that's great. It's like, again, that's the most African-American people I've seen in a gathering at one time since I've been here. And I'm sure there are things that happen, like there's a Facebook group with like Black business owners in the area, but I don't see that every day. And so just getting the word out and just having more venues where we can meet together and just be together. Doesn't have to be a specific purpose other than just fellowship. That's really what it's about, is letting us know, let each other know that we're here are the resources we have, and here's how we can help each other. That's really, I think, would be a big thing, I know, for me, because I do a lot of things, my wife does a lot of things, I know other people do a lot of things. Just listening to like some of you all's stories about the businesses you've done and the things you do in your community involvement, it's like I'm interested in all of those things, and so I think that having more opportunities to get together, and not, one thing I've always struggled with is sometimes being a part of Black, African-American fill in the blank, African-American Firefighters Association, African-American, it's just like, I also want to be a part of an association that allows everyone to come in, because I almost feel like sometimes using those is kind of, I don't want to say taking advantage. I understand I am African American and I can certainly be a part of that, but I've always been more interested in being part of a group that involves everyone, because it's almost like by making it African American firefighters, now we're excluding everybody else. And that's what we were fighting against. I understand the reasoning behind it, because we needed, at different points in history, we needed something like that to take care of ourselves. But in 2023, going into 2024, I think that, again, we can learn from everybody. Sometimes it's what to do, sometimes it's what not to do. And so I think having more events that we are informed about, that we can, as African Americans, be involved in the city of Springfield would be a way to overcome that.
So it sounds like less about forming specific like Black organizations and more just having more opportunities to just fellowship, share space, share resources, check in, that sort of thing.
Yes, in general, and we could certainly, that doesn't mean we can't have the, African American, this, because, all cultures have their own thing, and it can still be the African American this, but all are welcome to attend, because how else are they going to learn about our culture if we don't let them in? And so that way we can have our space that everyone feels more comfortable around people that look like them, and understands kind of where they come from and things like that. But, sharing that information so that more people feel comfortable about that can't hurt us. It can only help. And so I don't think that more inclusion would be the way to get more people involved. I think that would be great for the city.
I noticed that too, working here at Springfield High School, just how when we do certain activities where it's primarily African American students in the room, but all are welcome. And so you have a handful of white students from other backgrounds, and that's the first time that they've been the minority in the room. And that's in itself, I feel like, such a valuable experience for them to be able to know what it feels like to maybe be the minority in the room and to be able to have more empathy for other students' experience.
Absolutely. I was on an interview panel recently, and one of the interviewees was a young Caucasian lady, a young woman. I think she's maybe 18, 19, maybe 20. And we all, there are always diversity questions in our interview panels. And in her answer, she said, I had a chance to do some work study or something in Ghana. And she actually used those words. She's like, it was the first time that I was the minority. And she's like, it really changed my whole outlook and made me think about different people differently after that, especially myself. So yes, she's like, I had to just adjust to that. And she said it wasn't hostile or anything. Everybody welcomed me, but it's just that feeling of, wow, I'm the only one here that looks like me. And so it was interesting to see her, and it was a great opportunity, obviously, for her. And so it kind of changed her whole outlook on her life, at a great age for her to kind of move forward with that.
So this project is part of the Springfield History Museum. So this is making history right here, and I'd imagine that in 10 and 20 and 30 years, people wanting to understand the history of Springfield are going to be watching this and looking back. What message or what insight would you like to leave the people with that are looking back at this time?
I would say that I really believe that knowledge hoarded is knowledge wasted. And so uplifting other people and using that knowledge to bring people forward is really how to leave a legacy. It's not about how much money you make and how much popularity you have. It's about what are you leaving for your children or your neighbor's children. Because if you don't share that knowledge and it goes away, it truly it goes to waste. It's no reason for people to have to go through the same struggles and suffer through the same things that I did. I've already done that. So if I'm able to share that and find a way to share it in such a way that they are able to accept that communication, I think that's the way to go. I've heard the saying, what is it? I just drew a complete blank. I've said this saying 1,000 times, but it's about learning from your mistakes. A smart person learns from their mistakes, but I think that a wise person can learn from the mistakes of others as well. And it's no reason to go through and coming up in African American community with parents that weren't well off, that struggled. We didn't know a lot about credit or anything like that. And so a lot of those lessons about credit and finances, I had to kind of learn the hard way, i.e., it's going to be it's a 7-year lesson because with that late payment, it's going to be 7 years until that's gone. And really, I didn't understand the impact of it. It was like, oh, it's on my credit, big deal, no problem. I didn't really understand how that translated into building wealth or owning homes or doing anything really. And so that's just one example of being able to give that information to someone. In our fire academies, I talk to folks about finances and resilience on one of the days, and we talk about compound interest and how to retire and be wealthy and be able to actually retire. And that's just knowledge and information that I didn't have, and so we try to give that so that now they can benefit from it. Whether I get anything out of it or not, what I get out of it is that I'm helping them. And really understanding that you can climb the ladder to success without using people as rungs, and that I would rather go halfway up the ladder and bring my whole team with me than get to the top by myself. So just having a broader mindset of community and helping as many people as we can, I think probably the message I would leave.
All right, and there you just heard that from...
At a curveball.
Okay.
All right, so with you, and by no means you have to answer this. I know being a firefighter, you probably see people at their not happiest moments, I guess you would say. But on the opposite side of that, do you have any stories of like some calls that you went out that were actually really funny? Like nothing, I guess the call when you got out there, you're like, it's almost comical as far as not being anything serious, but like what's happening here?
Oh, we run a lot of calls like that. I don't understand how people get themselves in in some of these situations. One of the funniest ones when the kids poke their head through the stairwell banisters. The head goes in, but they can't get it out. So everybody's there freaking out, and you just come and just kind of open it up and get their head out. That's always a good one. I would say a lot of the funnier calls is just people doing silly stuff, and it's like, oh, they think they can jump on the trampoline after they've had a couple cases of beer, and you go out there and they're just all tangled up in the springs of the trampoline. It's just like, okay, you don't need a medical, it's not a medical emergency. I think it's a kind of a life coaching emergency. So let me help, stop drinking, it's bad. But yeah, in this area, we don't have a ton of those calls, but it's usually involving either young people or drunk people that do that, or they'll tell us something, say like, oh, I think I overdosed on Gatorade, what should I do? It's like, I don't know, go pee, I guess, I don't know what to do, I can't help you with that. Or, so it's just, so to us, a lot of times it's funny, we try not to laugh, because to them it's serious. It's like, I went to the Scandinavian festival 5 hours ago, and I think I'm having a heat stroke. And they're sitting on the couch, like covered in a soaking wet blanket, and they're like, oh, help me. It's like, I think you're fine. I think you're good. Have some more water and you'll be all right. So we try not to laugh at stuff like that. It's very challenging sometimes, but we still try to treat people respectful, because in their mind, this is a really big deal. But to us, it's like, you really called us for this? And at 2 o'clock in the morning, you having this foot pain that you have for 13 years, but 2 o'clock in the morning is when you call 911 for it. Awesome. Go to prop that up, go see your doctor tomorrow. That's it.
Did you get any stereotypical cats in the tree calls?
No, fortunately not, because the way I get cats out of trees is frowned upon. We got water hoses, you just spray them out. But you just tell people, have you ever seen any cat skeletons in trees? No, the cat will come down when he gets hungry. He'll be just fine. But I think some people have had that here, and I've heard stories about people in the past actually using the hose line to try to get the cat out of the tree. So not the best. So just let him put some food at the bottom, he'll come on down.
All right, so we just spoke with Jonathan Hayes. This is the Springfield History Museum Illumination Project. Michael K. Media as your host. We're illuminating the rich and diverse stories, perspectives, experiences of Black folks here in Springfield, Oregon. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and signing off until next time.
Yeah.